Hello everybody, Captain Sedaris here. It's again the time of the year in which we celebrate the anniversary of Star Trek. For that reason, I invited a developer called Jan B. He not only developed a mod for Star Trek Armada 2, Fleet Ops Roots, but also for Starfleet Command 3, the upgrade mod. Hi there, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. You?
Not bad at all, not bad at all. The summer is finally over and I don't have to sweat as crazy, so everything is better now.
Where I live, it's still summer, but yeah, I like it.
Summer, yeah. Degrees over 30, no.
Yeah, okay, I have to agree with you on that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Before we go really into the subject, thanks for joining me. It's an honor to talk to you. I follow your work for many years now. I'm the bad stalker on mod database and I watch all those little nice mods. So yeah, thank you for joining me.
Right. Well, thank you for inviting me. And yeah, it's always strange to hear that people have been following my work. It's just something I've been doing in private for many years, and then to suddenly hear someone's real voice talking about it, that's also an honor. Thank you.
How did you get into modding in general? I'm curious.
Well, when I was a teenager, I got my first PC, and then I started playing Command and Conquer obsessively, and then some other games. And I don't know, I think I just started tinkering around with the game files. I was just curious what those did, and then I noticed that sometimes you could change something, and the game wouldn't crash, and it would actually change something in the gameplay. And then a couple of years after that, I discovered there were entire communities working on that, especially for Armada 1. I was really into that back then. And yeah, that's how I got into it. And then I went to university and didn't mod for a very long time. And then a couple of years ago, I got back into it.
Did you study something in the technology sector or do something completely else?
I am a data scientist and I did study physics. I was actually inspired by Star Trek to go into physics, but I'm not really a professional programmer. I do program a bit, but yeah, it's just been a hobby mostly. I just had to learn along the way.
Okay, so just a side project. You couldn't use that for your entry cards into the industry.
No, that would have been something, but no.
And since Star Trek inspired you for basically studying in this field, let's talk a little bit about Star Trek. What is your favorite series? When did you start watching?
All right. So I think I was around 10 years old when my mom got me into Star Trek. And I think back then Voyager was still on TV. So just got drawn in really quickly. And then later, DS9 became my favorite series. It still is. I just love the complex politics, the characters, especially Garrick. I really love Garrick, and yeah, it just never let me go from them. And I've been watching so much science fiction since then. I also love Battlestar Galactica. Lately, I've been really into Dune and Foundation. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's really surprised me. Yeah, it's really good actually. So yeah, I'm really a hardcore sci-fi nerd.
That's always good to hear. And on the gaming side, did you try more Star Trek games besides Armada and Starfleet Command?
I think I played Elite Force once, just through the story mode. And I played Armada 1 and 2 obsessively, I think months at a time. Yeah, so mostly it, I think. And then, and of course, the Starfleet Command games, all of them.
And at release or?
Yeah, the Armada games at release, I remember. I actually remember buying Armada 2 in a store, a physical store.
Okay, so I can now picture your age a little bit more.
Yeah, it's mid to late 30s.
Same here. Yeah, then, well, I would say let's go to today's topic. I would say maybe outside of the Armada community and Starfleet Command community, not so many fans know about fleet operations, your mod, and also Starfleet Command, the upgrade mod. Can you give us a short summary which both projects are?
Oh yeah, of course. I started out trying to fix all the things I thought were missing and upgrading them. That's also why I called my first mod the upgrade mod. Yeah, I tried to add in some stuff that was mostly canon and balanced and make it so everything looked like it should belong together in one game. Because I think that's lacking in a lot of mods. They just put in dozens of git bashes that don't look like they're from the same era or don't look. So some are very pixelated and some are beautiful designs, and then they don't really mix. I try to avoid that. I also try to keep an eye on the gameplay, stay balanced and interesting. And yeah, scope creep just kept coming, and I started out really small, and then suddenly I got it into my head to make these publicly available mods and keep updating them for the public. Yeah, it was really fun.
And did you also work on fleet operations itself or just on your submod?
Unfortunately, I was never part of the dev team. I would have liked to, because then I would also have had the source code, which would have been really handy. But I didn't, so it was just my own mod, just root.
And are you still in contact maybe with the original devs? Because they are very silent the last few years.
Yeah, unfortunately, there have been. I have been in contact with some of them. They have their own new project that they're working on, but they've been working on it for, I think, about 7 years now. I don't really expect them to finish anytime soon, or maybe ever. I did get some helpful pointers, especially Megadroid. He created the mission scripting API for Fleet Ops. I've really used his help. He gave me a lot of tips. He even added some stuff to the mission API, so I could get some of the mechanics I wanted to work. Yeah, he had been really helpful. Yeah, and then of course Coca-Cola. He was the main programmer, I believe. He gave me some small tips, but yeah, he's not really into Fleet Ops anymore. But he did give me permission to crack the binary, so I could remove the checksum protection and start hex editing, which I've been doing lately. It has been very interesting, but also very difficult.
Yeah, it is the strange thing in the Armada 2 or in the Armada community itself. There is so much information available in some way, but it's also blocked a little bit. I know a few developers, and sadly to say, all of them want basically to get in touch with the team of Fleet Ops because they did such an amazing and revolutionary work in the Armada community.
Definitely, yeah.
And there is so much information behind their doors and nobody can get to them. It's a little bit sad that we had the announcements of their own work, basically. They wanted to create their own game, basically. And then everything stopped.
Yeah, that was 7 years ago, I believe.
It's a little bit sad.
Yeah, so I contacted Coca-Cola about obtaining the source code for Fleet Ops, and he said something like, "Well, you're allowed to crack the existing binary, but we're not going to give you the source code, and there's some proprietary code in there, and you would need a very ancient version of Delphi, I believe, to compile it." And I was like, "Okay, sure, that's fine, I'll figure it out." But no, they didn't want to release it. Which is sad, because then you could do so many wonderful things in a fraction of the time they've been spending on their new game, the new game engine. But that's the way things are.
That, and I'm a big fan of preserving history. And it's so sad when we have gated communities like that. I really don't want to say too much negative about the Fleet Ops team. But here, if you ever hear this team, this is just a request. Share a little bit of your secrets. You don't have to share the source code, but at least the way to get there, to resolve certain problems. I know there is so much out there. We would love that as a community, I would say.
Well, I second that, definitely. Yeah, just some more insights into how the binary was built up. I am using a disassembler. I do learn little bits at a time, but there's so much stuff in there that's not being used, or that's there's code that's copied in multiple places, so you don't know what's doing what. Some names are missing, stuff like that. If you get more of an overview of that, or how the menus work, which I've been really banging my head against, trying to solve the tiny menu problem. Yeah, that would be wonderful, even without the source code itself.
Definitely, just some help. Just some help would be nice. But yeah, don't be too negative. Let's move to your projects more. When did this whole thing start for Starfleet Command 3, for example? Where was the inspiration and How did it start?
Ooh, that was many years ago. I think it was really simple. I used to play Starfleet Command 1 and 2 back in the day when I was a teenager, and then I found out there was a third one, and I started playing it when I was at university. But I don't know, I was a bit jarred by the graphics, and then there were no Cardassians in it. Even though the game files clearly indicated there should have been, and the devs said that they had to rush the game and release it while it wasn't ready. And I was like, well, maybe I could fix that. So I tried to give it a large graphical update and add in the Cardassians and the Dominion. And then I ran into a lot of limitations. Most of that game is actually hard coded. It's a lot harder to mod than Fleet Ops or Armada are. So I tried to do my best to work around that. I also got into some hex editing for that. But I did find myself very limited there. And then at some point I was like, okay, well, we're done. We cannot make new campaigns because I had actually planned on making new campaigns. That was impossible. And then finally I gave up, but I tried to release a very polished package.
One thing from the player side here is I always notice that it's very hard to mod or change the UI in Starfleet Command 3.
True.
It always gives me even problems recording it sometimes. What is the best way basically for a player to play in widescreen?
I remember developing widescreen plugins basically that you could also use for the stock version of the game. That was very difficult. The assets, the menu assets, so the buttons and stuff like that, is hard coded in certain binary files. I had to reverse engineer that, and there was another modder who helped me with that. I don't remember his or her name anymore. But yeah, that was a lot of work, and if I recall correctly, it wasn't entirely stable either. I think it broke at some point when there was a Windows 10 update, and then we had to fix it again, and then it worked again, and I don't know if it still works in Windows 11. But yeah, you basically had to hard code it. Yeah, so I released different versions of the plugin for different resolutions. Yeah, that's one of those examples. Yeah, it shouldn't have been hard coded, and for example in Armada 2, it's just a couple of texture files, I believe, and some sprite files, but not in Starfleet Command. No.
The last few days I played around again with your mod. In my current setup, I had the problem basically that I couldn't really tell if I'm now playing in 1080p or is it still the native resolution. Especially, I recorded the gameplay and OBS did something strange that it showed me the picture more or less twice. A low resolution version in the left corner and a high resolution one in the right frame. So I'm not sure what is happening when I start the EXE. Is it basically you're already in widescreen or do I have to do something there?
No. Back when I worked on it, it just worked, and the way you could sort of figure out the resolution you were actually looking at was by looking at the ships. How detailed were the details on the ships themselves, the windows, how well was the anti-aliasing working. That's basically how I figured out whether the game was actually running at a higher resolution. And back when I was working on it, that worked. I could actually get it to run in 180p. Also the phaser beams, you could really easily tell from the phaser beams whether they were choppy or not.
I would say it was in higher resolution, but of course, since I don't have the comparison, it's so many years ago, it's hard to say if it's really in the high resolution or in the low. I think I saw in the config file that it's set to 920 by 1080, so I guess it's really that resolution.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and also if you compare it to the stock game, you would immediately see the difference.
Also, I think the main menu is stuck to 4:3, the ratio.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I don't think I could change that. That was also hard coded somewhere in the binary and in a way that I couldn't really change. I don't think I ever found out where that was where it was hard-coded. Yeah.
I noticed you added so many balancing changes to Starfleet Command 3. Was this really a hard issue, especially since you say so much is hard-coded?
Yeah, well, again, if I recall correctly, weapon ranges are hard-coded in the game, so that was definitely hard. Also, you couldn't just add new weapons. That was very limited. I remember creating the Polaron beams for the Dominion. It was a pain in the ass. I think I repurposed existing weapons that nobody was really using because they were quite weak. So yeah, that was quite difficult. And then for balancing, I tried to go on simple mathematical rules and old military theory, like if one unit does this much damage per unit of time and it has so many shield hit points, how would that balance out against two smaller ships, for example? But it is very difficult. I think I improved on the original, um, but in the end, it's very difficult to calculate it all on your own and account for all the scenarios. For example, if you have a higher turn rate for a smaller ship, that affects its combatability in a way that you can't really calculate. So there's always some rough edges there. And that in Roots that was a lot easier because it's a RTS game. That's a lot easier.
It's so sad that the game engine is so hard-coded, so locked behind doors, because it was for me more or less my first, not really MMO experience, but in a sense it was. You had that Galactic Conquest map and interacted in the chat with different players. It could have been such an amazing game if the developers would allow mod support.
Yeah, definitely. But I remember from the developers is that they really felt rushed. They had to release the game before they felt it was ready, and you can tell when modding it. There are so many unfinished features, and like I said, they did plan on adding the Cardassians and having the Cardassian campaign. Most of the assets are still there, and maybe they were planning on mod support as well. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, they said they were rushed by like a year.
Did you ever get in touch with the developers?
I think one of them back on the Dynaverse server when that was still around.
Nice. It's always amazing to talk to one of the original devs.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think even back then it was like 15 years ago that they worked on it. Yeah, they still remembered some things.
And would you say there were any features you would so much liked in this game, but because of that limitations you couldn't include?
Yeah, well, yeah, like I already said, I think more campaigns. Also, the galactic map isn't working that well, I believe. I think like there's no diplomacy you can do. You could have a fleet, but you cannot really interact with it as well as you could in Starfleet Command 1 and 2, if I recall. Also, you cannot buy every ship, I believe. Yeah, that was a lot lacking, I think. And also it just very slow. The whole gameplay was very slow. Like you sometimes need to have 5 fights over the same sector, and then you move away, and then some random pirate comes in, some Borg cube, and then you lose the sector again, and it just keeps on going and going and going. And I also think the game was bugged because if you do conquer the entire map, nothing happens. The game just crashes. So it's not very satisfying.
Oh, I can't even remember that. Yeah, that isn't.
I actually tried that, and also because I could create my own maps, my own galactic maps, I could just make really small ones and see what would happen if you conquer the entire map, and then the game would just always crash.
But I guess there are still some features, some ships you're very proud of in Starfleet Command 3. What would be one or two?
Oh yeah. I added like minor factions for every of the major factions. I really like that process. So if you were Federation, you could sometimes run into a Gorn ship that would help you, and if you were Cardassian, you could, or if you were Romulan, you could get Cardassian ships to help you. That was really nice, and one of the easier things actually was creating new missions for the Conquest campaign. So that was also also a pretty nice process that it was actually possible, and that I could tailor them for each race. So I believe there was like one mission where you had to fight this huge battleship from a random enemy faction, and the game would actually check whether your faction was at war with that other faction. And then if you were Borg, you wouldn't get that mission, but you would get a mission where you were being attacked by species 8472, and you could do all those things, and that adds something to it, I think.
Yeah, especially love this randomness in games. It spices it up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I really took great care to for every scenario to have multiple configurations of enemy ships that you could run into, and have it depend somewhat on the strength of your own ship, so it wouldn't be too easy.
Would you say
that took a lot of work? Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Is there another feature or a ship?
Adding the ships wasn't really that much of a thing, and they were all basically the same. So no, it's not just the ships. And I have to clarify one thing. I don't design ship models, so I'm terrible at that. I tried it for a while. I'm terrible at it, so I just took models from other ships. But I try to pick the best looking ones and make them fit together. So all the Dominion ships have a similar theme, and they look like they're from the same fleet, from the same era, and all this stuff. And the textures are in the same resolution and everything. Same with the Cardassians, and also with the Federation ships. They all got a massive graphical overhaul, which I was really proud of.
I think that's totally fine. Most modders used stuff from others, combined different ships to a package basically. And yeah, we all share in this community, I would say. It's totally okay, and great work can be done that way.
Yeah, and everyone has their own specialty, of course.
Definitely.
I really respect people who can create these ship models. I wish I could. Some of them are very talented, and some of them create entire series. So they create an entire faction with using the same design or the same texture style. I really love that when they do that.
And would you say you're more or less happy with the last version, or do you say, hey, I want to include a little bit more? Is there a future for Starfleet Command 3 upgrade mod?
No. Maybe theoretically, fixing things that are broken in Windows 11. But no, content-wise, I think I squeezed everything out of it that I could put in there. Yeah, and everything that I couldn't do was due to engine limitations, hard coding.
Speaking about limitations, is also 1080p the highest resolution you can get out of the game, or can you even go up to 4K, for example?
I think theoretically you can go higher, but the number of resolutions is also hard-coded in the binary. So at some point you would have to delete other resolutions. And when I released it, I looked at the most popular resolutions that should be supported, and I made a selection based on that. 1440p might still be in there. I don't recall. But yeah, if you want to have 4K, then you should delete one of the lower resolutions from the binary itself, which is a tedious process. And that's again one of those limitations.
I saw in the launcher for the multiplayer side that you could select the resolution, but I couldn't find anywhere else to select the resolution. I even remember there was a tool, a client where you could select different resolutions, but this time I installed it from GOG, this version. I hadn't anything to change the resolution besides this multiplayer launcher.
Yeah, I seem to recall something like that. That was included in the CD version, right? You had some kind of options launcher that you could use. Yeah. Oh, that's weird. If they took that out, I don't think I bought the GOG version.
But I can send you some screenshots how it looks, basically how the files are looking.
Yeah, and they didn't add anything in the normal game options.
No, nothing.
Oh, that's weird. Then I think they just stretch it. They have their own graphic shell. I think they use some modified version of the directory 3D 8 or 9 binary for that. And you can I think you can set a resolution there, but it might just stretch the game to fit that.
I have to look into that a little bit more, but I know they changed in some games from the Star Trek re-release. They changed a little bit of the not directly the game code, but the wrapper who starts the game basically.
Yeah, the wrapper, that's what they call it. Yeah.
In Armada 1 and 2, especially 2, they changed a lot because it was for a long time not possible to play the multiplayer. If you had the CD version in GOG is possible. And the wrapper for Armada 1 also gives a much improved gameplay experience compared to the community wrapper. So they did some magic there. I wanted to ask you even that, if you know any changes, but here we are basically.
Yeah, I saw that question and I hadn't really noticed. I did think they changed some things in Armada 2. Of course, the CD check is gone, but I hadn't noticed anything in gameplay.
Gameplay, I don't think they didn't change anything there. Just that's wrapper technology and in.
Yeah, and also with you can just use the executable from the GOG version to run fleet ops. It just works, so no crashes there. So most of the code is unchanged. And also there's a debug file and with all the function names in the executable. And when I compare that to what I see in the disassembler, it all just seems to fit. So whatever changes they made, they were very small changes and probably injected through other binary files.
I think it's also totally fine that they don't touch the original work, not that much. So basically that it just runs, it's fine.
Yeah. They did a good job actually. I was just disappointed that the wrapper didn't work on fleet ops. But that is probably because of the way the fleet op developers coded the menus and the game itself, unfortunately.
Yeah, also to be honest, Fleet Ops was for a very, very long time the only project where you could play in higher resolutions, in widescreen basically.
Yeah, but I was always annoyed by the tiny menus. The bigger our monitors are getting, that yeah, more of a problem it becomes. So yeah, I'm really obsessed with that lately, and that's something that the GOG wrapper doesn't solve because they programmed it in a different way.
Yeah, exactly. Before we go more into the problem side of Armada 2, I would like to know where the inspiration came for the Fleet Ops root model.
Yes. I started playing Fleet Ops a couple of years ago, and I really liked many of the upgrades. Of course, the widescreen, the graphical updates, but I just couldn't really get into the gameplay. And the fact that there were no single-player missions, I thought the gameplay was a bit too convoluted. Too many special weapons that didn't add much, in my opinion. Of course, other people may disagree. Also, they had a system, a rock paper scissors system, but then with weapon ranges. But I don't think it really worked well, especially with the very small ranges. So I got to work to simplify it a bit. I wanted to get more of the atmosphere of Armada 1 and also get rid of the expandability of. In Armada 2 you had these huge fleets of ships that you could build really quickly, and they would just get shredded by enemy turrets. If you sent them into an enemy base, you would just lose 100 ships in a minute, and I didn't really like that, and Armada 1 wasn't like that. So yeah, I tried to recreate that atmosphere and at the same time simplify the game a bit, add in some classical RTS mechanics. I was very much inspired by StarCraft 2 for that, and also do another graphical upgrade. And then later on, I got the inspiration to actually try creating the single player missions, and to my surprise, that was actually possible. And yeah, and then I started obsessively working on it and releasing it. And I just wanted to make a very polished product. That was my goal.
I wonder how you did even get the idea to do story missions. It's very rare that a mod does that.
Well, yeah, I just I don't know. At some point, the seed was planted in my head to just try that mission scripting API that Megadroid created, and I think there was one other mod that had complete conversion of the game into some other setting that wasn't Star Trek, and they had, I think, one working mission. So that showed to me that it was actually possible. And then I just got curious, like, can I do something like that? How hard is it to script such an event? How hard is it to create a random ship to appear on the map, set up timers, stuff like that? And then I started figuring it out, and I was like, well, if I can do one, then I can do more. And why not just create a whole experience, create actual campaigns? And I just started going from there. And I remember it's really enjoying the StarCraft 2 campaigns, all 3 campaigns, because they were so original. They had these different mechanics in every mission, and they were a lot of fun to play. And I wanted to do something like that. Of course, I couldn't make it that complicated. Some of those mechanics are impossible in Fleet Ops or in Armada, and of course, on my own, I couldn't test all those missions enough. But yeah, I tried to create something similar, and then in the end, it worked out pretty well, I think.
I especially was surprised about the cutscenes. Is this very hard to do? Is the engine very painful to handle? To, for example, do a camera rotation or something simple like that?
No. The mission scripting API actually handles that pretty well most of the time. There's a lot of trial and error. So sometimes the camera can get stuck on the ship, or it can get bumpy. You have to set up the speed and the exact starting and end positions and some points in between. That's all trial and error, and it takes a lot of time, but it's not that hard actually. It's it surprised me. I thought it would be harder. But it's mostly with these missions. The hardest part was balancing them, making them a bit of a challenge, but not too hard. They still have to be fun. They have to be predictable to some degree. That there shouldn't be any situation where the AI makes one different decisions from another game, and then suddenly they flood you with 1,000 ships. I mean, when they're not supposed to. You have to guard against that. But no, the cutscenes weren't that hard actually. No.
Any other problems which gave you sleepless nights?
And the whole mod, you mean, or just the missions?
No, the missions and mods, the whole mod.
Yeah, I remember with the missions. I tried to create missions where you could choose the faction you played as. That actually made it into the release version, but that was quite difficult. And at first, it wasn't possible to change the UI when you did that. And Megadroid actually rewrote his, or he changed his API to make that possible. So shout out to him. Thank you very much. But that took me a lot of effort. Also, just making the missions distinct enough from each other. That was also quite hard. And yeah, the hardest thing for me in the entire mod was differentiating the factions. So I wanted to make them more asymmetrical, but that requires so much testing that I couldn't really do on my own. So I was a bit limited in that. There is some asymmetry in it now, but that was really really difficult and really a limitation.
I guess that's always for every game developer a really problem.
I was again inspired by StarCraft, and they are still releasing patches and balance upgrades after all those years, and they have dozens of people working on it, and they have only 3 factions. So yeah, it's not surprising that it's hard, but I tried to go as far as I could to at least differentiate the factions somewhat. That playing as the Romulans wouldn't be exactly the same as playing as the Borg, but just with different ship designs. So I tried to find some middle ground there.
I noticed during my last few sessions that there isn't a warp-in animation for the Federation when you call the reinforcements. Is this a bug, or didn't you include that on purpose?
Let's see, is that the latest version of the mod?
Yeah, it's the latest version.
Because there were warp-ins at some point, and I think in the last version I replaced them with instantaneous warp-ins. So just basically a replacement weapon, as we modders call it. I discovered a bug in the Fleet Ops engine that if you save the game during a warp in, loading that game will crash the game. So that's why I changed that.
Okay, understandable. Yeah, it's a small detail, but I always liked it when the fleet came in, basically.
Yeah, no, I liked it too, and actually, it only happens in the main version of Fleet Ops, so that most people play. There's also the Fleet Ops 4.0 engine that actually fixed it. I am still low-key working on a reworked version of that, because I started hex editing lately, and I fixed some of the bugs in that version of the engine. So there I could add it back in. But then again, it's also nice to have instantaneous warp-ins because they're a bit more predictable. And with the warp-in effect, you would occasionally have ships that got stuck behind an asteroid field, for example. That was really annoying, and it's something you couldn't really fix. So I'm not sure if I'm gonna bring that back. Even though it was a very, very nice visual effect, and then just seeing the ships warp across the map, and enemies could also see them fly by and know there's something going on there.
Totally, but if there is really a big bug behind it, I totally understand it if you take it out. You mentioned that. Go ahead.
Oh well, I was gonna say that gameplay was always key for me. So sometimes people ask me, well, can we have this and this ship with I don't know 50 quantum torpedo launchers? And I was like, okay, that sounds awesome, but it's gonna break the gameplay, and I don't want any crashes in my or any bugs in my game. So that was really important for me.
That's a very good approach.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there is a different release version from Fleet Ops, basically an alpha of the next version, or what is it?
No, it's back in 2013 they released Fleet Ops 3.2.7. That's the one that most mods are based on and that most people play, and that has been well tested and documented. And then in 2016 they released it wasn't really a release, but some people worked on it on version 4.0. It brings some improvements, and fixes some of the bugs. It also introduces some new bugs, and it was never properly released, but you can find it on the Discord in the download section. And at some point, I was reworking the roots mod to work with that. Then I found some bugs, specifically a memory leak that just killed the game basically. So then I abandoned that. But lately with hex editing, I've been able to fix that and some other issues. So yeah, I am looking into releasing the roots mod again with those enhanced features. So for example, you get to set the default alert status of the game or of the ships, or the special weapon use of the ships. Rally points from shipyards have a line running from them. Stuff, little things like that. But they come in handy. Oh yeah, also you could use a different texture format, so you can really cut down on the memory usage of the game, make it more smooth. So that's also really nice, because I spend a lot of time optimizing the whole mods too. It's of course a graphical upgrade, but you have to pay some attention to how you do that, because especially on the slower systems. But yeah, also it's just a really old game engine that can only handle about 3 gigabytes of memory. You really have to stay inside of that, or you're gonna run into trouble.
Yeah, definitely. It's an old engine, but I think it still looks very nice.
Yeah. If you optimize in the right ways, then you can still make it look like a modern RTS. Definitely. But yeah, you have to be careful about what you do. And then with that new texture format, yeah, you can really cut down on the memory use. And I don't know if how much you've played the game, but especially Fleet Ops, you would sometimes get choppy moments when the game was loading new textures or swapping textures from memory. That was sometimes really noticeable in games. I've been really able to bring that down.
So I hear there's still a bright future for the mod. You still work on it? Your last version wasn't released that long ago?
Yes. Well, yeah. Bringing back to the 4.0 version of the engine. That's my main main effort now, but I've also been fixing some small bugs as well. The one reason I haven't released it yet is because I'm still stubbornly trying to change that menu size issue, but I'm not sure if I can in the end. And I've been really busy with work.
It would be amazing to have a full screen menu again.
Yeah. Well, actually, I got really close. Most of the menus were recoded in Treetop's engine, and I could actually hard code them to be 50% larger. So that's all already progress. But then I believe the single player menu and the Admiral's log are still handled by the original game executable. And well, yeah, I cannot mod that, of course, because I cannot include that in the mod because that would be piracy. So yeah, that's still limiting me, unfortunately. But yeah, I'm still holding out hope that someone will find a fix. And if not, I'll probably still be releasing a new version of the mod with some subtle changes and especially more smooth gameplay, less choppy, and higher frame rate.
Also here, of course, I want to ask if there is any feature which you would so much like in the game, but the engine can't handle.
Yes. So yeah, I already mentioned in the missions that swapping factions isn't really well implemented. Yeah, I would have seen that differently. Oh yeah, also there's just graphical limitations that you run into, especially with explosion effects. I would like to see solved. Also, multiplayer could be improved by a lot, I think.
Yeah, the netcode could be really better. That's the old Armada 2 or Armada in general problem.
Yeah, but I think they reworked it for fleet ops, but it's still kind of buggy and there's like out of sync issues, and of course that's very difficult to test. I'm not gonna say I would have done a better job at that, of course not. But yeah, that proper support for that would be nice. Also, yeah, like I said before, more asymmetric factions, which is technically possible. There's no limitation in the game engine, but it just takes so much testing, and I don't have the time for that.
Yeah, we have a life besides gaming and modding and creating videos.
Yeah, and I'm also into sports, and I have a private life, and sometimes I have to work overtime, and just yeah, that it gets in the way. And at some points, I could get really obsessive. I would pull all nighters just trying to figure out some issue with one of the special weapons in Armada or Fleet Ops, and I knew that wasn't healthy. So yeah, I try to cut back on that a little. And also, like like I said, I'm late 30s now. I want to start a family soon, and that also gets in the way, of course.
Yeah, that will change.
Yeah. Even though it's been really fun, and modding is really it can be really relaxing to me. I can just clear my mind and forget all my troubles for a while. Especially if I have a whole day to myself, then it can be really fun. And it brings me back to when I was a teenager and doing the same stuff.
And quickly, maybe what I am most proud of in Armada, of course.
Well, the missions, of course. Also, how polished it became, and the optimizations I was able to put in there. It wasn't even that long ago that I discovered how to make cloaked ships not pull down the frame rate by 90% and stuff like that. Also, that one mechanic where you can. I think it's called a cycle support ship or something like that, where you can with support ships in the roots mods, those have multiple special weapons, and then you can cycle through the versions. And so you can, for example, if you have 20 of them, you can set 10 to use one of the special weapons and 10 to use the other special weapon. I've really found that nice feature, and I think a game like StarCraft or let's say Age of Empires, like those competitive games would put a feature in there like that. I'm also really proud that actually works.
That's always good to hear that the developer is also proud about the project. I think that's we as the community enjoy playing your stuff, and if you're also happy, this makes us also happy.
Yeah, but also when sometimes I got compliments on the mod, and I'm like, oh, thank you. yeah, that's what I do it for, and so as many people as possible get to enjoy it.
Yeah, before we close it off, I also want to give you some little quick suggestions, nothing too crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed, and I really liked it, that you included a kind of trading in the Starbase.
Oh yeah.
Maybe make a trading station. I so liked this feature in Armada 2 that you finally had a trading station where you could send little freighters to the allies or the other stations.
Yeah. I remember loving that too. It was very Age of Empire like.
Definitely, yeah.
I'm just not sure how it would actually work in a competitive multiplayer, or like the freighters would probably just get killed on the way. But yeah, I have thought about it, and maybe one day I'll put it back in. Yeah.
Also, you could have the button for the trading, the lithium to metal and reverse in there, and also have maybe, that's a problem from other mods also, it always is so annoying that you have to press every time you want 100 dilithium or metal. Give me another button maybe where I can buy 500 or 1000. So it's a little bit quicker than just click, 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 click. Oh, now yeah, I have thousands after an hour.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's possible to put multiple buttons on top of each other, like they do with the Borg build nodes in Starfleet Ops. Yeah, I can look into that. Also, just my general tip is to use hotkeys. Just use hotkeys for everything. In roots, everything is tied to a hotkey, and those all work. That's what I do. But yeah, you're right. If you need 10,000 dilithium, then yeah, then you don't want to buy 100 at a time.
Sadly, we can't use the shift key like in other RTS. In other RTS, you can hold shift, and if you buy a unit, you will get 5. If you share 100 dilithium or food or whatever, you get 500 if you hold shift. So there's already that mechanic. I'm not sure if you can do that also in Armada, in the Armada engine, but at least maybe have.
I think that's hard. Yeah, that should be hard coded in the engine. It's just not in there. That's unfortunately.
But at least have 2 buttons, one for 100, one for 1000 or 500, doesn't matter basically.
Yeah.
It's such an improvement if you already have 500, if you need 1000 or 10,000.
Yeah, I can I can definitely look into that. It just needs to work with the UI, of course, so that you don't always have like 3 extra buttons that clutter up the screen. That's it's always a consideration. There should be some kind of way. Yeah, I'll think about it.
Then I really liked that you finally gave basically Armada 2 or Fleet Ops a better font for higher resolutions. I really like it.
Thank you. Because I heard that was a bit of a controversial move, but that's why I also included the option of using the stock font. Yeah. But yeah, thank you.
I think it's a very good move, but maybe include in the installer the option which one you use, the small font or the big font. Just a simple click, and you are done, set, because you will never change that again.
True. Yeah, well, I'll add that to the next version. Yeah, I still have to rewrite the installer for that. So yeah, I can just add that. It's just one file that you have to swap out, so it should be easy. Yeah, that will be in the next installer, I promise. Yeah.
Nice. I always love when the ideas I have are good ones.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Then maybe also, that's for the far future maybe, I noticed you used some kind of voice AI for the story missions. Since we are progressing so fast now in the AI sector, maybe use one of the new AIs which are very well done, where you can even have voices which are similar to different actors.
Yeah. That's a good one. I've been thinking about that as well. Yeah, I might actually do that. It's I already noticed. I think between version 2.0 and 3.0, I already changed like all the Kardashian voices because a newer version came out, some kind of speech software. But yeah, you're right. It's going so quickly, and now you have all those videos narrated by David Attenborough, for example, on YouTube. Yeah. It's time for a rework. Yeah. Can you recommend a good one?
Not at the moment. I also stepping slowly in the I word.
Maybe people who are listening to this can add some suggestions to the comments then.
Yeah, that would be nice. Just write something for me and for this amazing developer, please. We want improved version on that. But sticking on the topic, the story missions, I think you did a good job that the ships don't die too fast and it's balanced. But one aspect I find a little bit hard, especially in the sense if you have to fight against enemy turrets, that the range of the artillery is so short that you just outside of the perimeter of the turret, and if the AI or the pathfinding, which is sadly in every RTS a hit and miss sometimes, that they by accident move in the range of the turret again and will be shut down. So it's very hard sometimes to find the right spot that the artillery isn't shot down, also doesn't do any strange movement and doesn't die because of that. Yeah.
I know that's an issue that I've had since the first version of the mod. Some people say, well, yeah, the range is too small. Other people would complain if the range is larger, because then it's really easy to just spam a base with artillery ships. Yeah, it was really hard to find a balance there. Also because you need a spotter ship, for example, Scout, to spot using its sensor range. And then if you increase the range of the artillery ship, the sensor range of the Scout has to be increased as well, and that changes the balance as well of the entire game. So that was really a very difficult problem. And after a lot of considerations, I sort of ended up with the ranges I have now. I also believe you cannot just add like something like 50 range to it. It has to be multiples of 100, over 100, or it won't work correctly. And yeah, it's really hard to find the right balance there. But it's something I struggled with and still do. Because yeah, in some missions you would want a bigger range for the artillery. And then in instant action or multiplayer, you don't want too large of a range. It's hard.
Definitely is.
Not sure. Yeah, if you can ever solve that. Yeah.
Maybe I have a research or something just for the story missions. Can you even separate that a little bit?
Yeah. You can have different tech trees for every mission can have its own tech tree. So you can add different. I could give some of those missions a different version of the artillery ship with a larger range. For example, that one Borg mission where you have to systematically work through the enemy turrets. There it might be handy, but then again, you might also not want to get players to get used to that and then get annoyed in instant action or multiplayer. Like, hey, in the mission this worked, why doesn't it work now? But yeah, that's a consideration. StarCraft, they do that. Like some of those mission units are completely different from how they behave in multiplayer. But yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, but I'm gonna look into it again. Maybe I can still add like a little bit of range without it screwing up everything. And also, yeah, turrets are your only base defense, basically, and especially against more difficult AIs. You really need them, and then you also don't want the AI to be able to just kill your base very quickly using unkillable artillery ships. So that's a difficult balance.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
Looking back at the whole development of both mods, basically, what would you say did you learn during this many years? What can you take with you?
Well, it was mostly just a lot of fun, but I think it also helped me, in professional ways. Like I do work in the tech sector then as a data scientist, and you do learn certain concepts from it. You get really creative, editing binaries, editing all kinds of different file formats and textures. It's been that's been really educational. Also, like structuring a whole project, because basically it's a large software project that you do. But it doesn't transfer 100% because I did most of it on my own in the real world. The biggest challenge, of course, is teamwork. Yeah, so yeah, mostly it's just been a lot of fun, and I don't really consider it as something I did to learn stuff.
Making also a very short sidestep here. What would you like to see in a new official Star Trek game? Since you have so much experience in, especially in balancing and modding.
Oh, that really depends on the genre. I would like it to have a lot of options, freedoms, of course, modability. That's not at the top of my list, but I definitely think the Dominion should be included. I think they've been really neglected by the entire franchise for the past 20 years. I think they are in Star Trek Online, of course, which I don't play, but I know they're in there. But basically, every series or game apart from that just ignores them.
Kind of. You have Deep Space Nine: The Fallen, where you have the Dominion.
Yeah, but isn't that like 20, 25 years old?
Every game is old.
Yeah.
Every game in the
Yeah.
Star Trek universe is old, except Resurgency and the Infinite, which is about to release in 1 or 2 months. But of course, the Dominion would be nice, especially. I like the idea, for example, in the game Dominion Wars, but a nice RTS would be nice, really nice.
Yeah, a new RTS, definitely, and one that's fully moddable. I think they're gonna bring out a Stellaris based game, and based on the Stellaris engine, I believe.
Yeah, Infinite, Star Trek Infinite.
Oh, that's Infinite. Oh yeah. That's nice, but that's 4X. I would really like to see another real RTS like Armada was, something like that, and then I could just mod it to my heart's content. I would really love to see something like that with all the modern multiplayer support and graphics and stuff like that. Yeah, I would really love that. And then open-ended engine, so you can just add weapons and factions however you want. That would be awesome.
Definitely. I also would like a new RTS in the Star Trek universe, but it's a must for me that it has mod support and direct IP support. It's a shame that this is dying out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It would be nice if it doesn't rely on servers that a game developer has to maintain. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so direct IP support, because these games stick around. Like you noticed, there's always going to be a community that's still playing them after 10 years, and there has to be support for that.
Well, I would say this is the part of the video where I open the mic to you. Is there anything you would like to add? Anything I didn't touch?
No. It was nice interview. I think we covered most of the topics. Of course, I want to thank all the people who helped me and gave me suggestions while working on these mods, and all the people playing them. If I could ask anything, if people enjoy my mods, leave a review on MultiP. Most people don't do that, and yeah, that would be nice. But mostly, just enjoy the mod. That's what it's made for.
Then I say for, I guess, the entire gaming community out there who plays Armada still, thank you very much for doing all those works, spending so much hour in the game, and yeah, thank you for doing the work.
Thank you for inviting me.
Okay, then that's it for this video. Leave us a comment, tell us what you think about the mod, and of course, play the game. Until next time, bye bye.